The story begins with a scene set in 1959. We are told that at one time the French ruled Burma, but after a war the French were defeated and now the Portuguese rule here, but there's still a Frenchman left here by the name of Steiner, who runs some labor camps, where a man named Martin is imprisoned. Actually Martin is a boxer, he has never lost a fight till date. Steiner also knew this. So he used to fight him almost every day, even today he brings him to fight, but when the fight starts, Martin defeats his opponent with a punch, but after seeing this Steiner is very angry, because the fight is over before it started, so he orders one of his men to kill the man, and his name was Rastignac, so Rastignac came and killed that man. Later when Martin is being taken to jail by 2 guards, he sees a girl named Isabel, and when Martin sees the guards mistreating Isabel, he gets very angry and starts fighting with the guards, but the guards beat him up and took him to prison. But then Martin can see that Isabel brings Steiner a flower every day, but Steiner ignores her, so when Isabel comes to see Martin, Martin asks her, "Why do you bring him a flower every day?" Isabel then tells him, "If you want I can bring you flowers every day too," but Martin angrily says, "I don't need any flowers." Then a man named Harrison comes to meet Steiner. He says to Steiner, "I'm looking for a man named Martin. I heard he is in your jail. Give him to me, for he is an escaped prisoner from an England prison, and I would like to take him back to England." But Steiner doesn't want to pay him back, because he made billions with Martin's skills. He fights Martin with different boxers and bets there, that's how he earns money. But now if he returns Martin, all his ways of earning will be cut off, so he tells him there is no Martin here, you can go and look elsewhere. A few days later Martin is brought back to Steiner's office, and this time Steiner introduces Martin to some of his special men, the first being Rastignac, who was in the Spanish army, the second being his guard Boone, who was in the Vietnamese special forces, and finally there is Amarillo, who was in the German army, but the 3 of them have one thing in common, they are all disloyal to their country. Steiner tells him that everyone here is a notorious terrorist of their country. They can never go back to their country, but still they are living a very good life with me. You can also live a good life with me if you want. I know you also cannot return to your country, because there is a case against you too, so if you go there you will be imprisoned. And Martin was a little worried after hearing these, but he said no to everyone, because he didn't want to follow anyone's word. After a few days, Martin is released, but he can't go out, because he has no papers or money, and he doesn't know anyone here except Isabel. So he goes to Isabel's house where he meets her stepfather Valentine. Martin tells Valentine all about him, and he asks why Isabel brings Steiner flowers every day. He then tells him that because Steiner is Isabel's real father, she takes flowers for her father every day. Actually Steiner thought Isabel's mother was a cheater so he left her, although she is later married by Valentine, but Isabel knows that Steiner is her real father. Then Valentine makes an offer to Martin. He says, "I have a bar here, you can work in my bar if you want and live with me. Since you don't have any legal documents, I gave you this offer." Then Martin agrees, because he can't go out even if he wants to now. So he starts working in a bar, but one day 2 guys started fighting in the bar, so when Martin kicked them out of the bar, they started challenging Martin. They said, "If you want to fight us then fight by boxing rules and beat us." Therefore Martin began to fight them according to the rules, and beat them half to death, because they tried to trick. But the next morning some of Steiner's men come and try to take Martin away. They say, "The guys you beat last night were Steiner's fighters. Steiner made money betting on them. Now that you've injured them you have to fight in their place or Steiner will kill you." But when Martin refuses them, they threaten Valentine that if you don't convince him, your bar will be burned down and you will be killed. Later when Martin is sitting upset, Valentine comes and tries to calm him down. Martin says, "I have bad luck everywhere I go, trouble starts." But Valentine convinces him that instead of fighting every day, let's do one fight for life, and Martin agrees after hearing this. Then when the day of the fight comes, a fierce fighter is brought in to fight him, but Martin knocks him out with 2 punches. Martin thinks the fight may be over so he tries to leave. But then he is told that the fight isn't over, it's just begun, and a more formidable fighter is brought in to fight him, but Martin beats him to death as well. Meanwhile, Harrison comes to Valentine's bar and asks him about Martin. He says that Martin is a very dangerous terrorist so he should be captured, but Valentine asks him what Martin did. Harrison then tells him that a gang killed his father and brother, so he went and killed the whole gang, and after hearing this Valentine decides not to tell him anything. She says, "Martin used to work here some time ago, but now I don't know where he is." although Harrison tempts him to pay but Valentine doesn't tell him anything. On the other hand, Steiner again asks Martin to join his team. He lures him with money and wealth. But Martin refuses. He leaves with his bag, because he wants to live life his own way. Later, as Steiner sits in his office, typing something on the typewriter, he thinks about his daughter. Actually, he also knows that Isabel is his daughter, but he can't reveal it to everyone. So he wrote it on a letter and put it behind his wife's picture. The next day, when Martin comes back to Valentine's bar, Valentine asks him to leave. He says, "You take Isabel and go to America, and I will sell the bar and move to Thailand after a few days." Valentine wants to do this because he knows that Isabel and Martin love each other, so if they go to America and start a family, their lives will be happy. But since Martin doesn't have any money, he comes to Steiner again, and he tells him that "I want a big fight this time, so I can make a lot of money." But Steiner tells him that now everyone knows your worth, so no one wants to bet against you, because everyone knows you will win the fight, so this time you lose. Everyone will think you'll win the fight, so everyone will bet on you, but you'll lose, and that's how I'll make money and you'll make money. So the next morning, when Steiner organizes a fight, everything goes according to his plan. Everyone starts betting on Martin because they think Martin will win the fight, but Martin loses the fight, and thus Steiner and Martin make a lot of money. Later, some of Steiner's men come to Valentine's bar, and tell him that Martin lost the fight, but Valentine is completely shocked to hear this, as he had bet his entire bar on Martin, and Isabel can't believe that Martin lost the fight. She thinks these guys are lying. So Isabel slaps a guy, and that guy slaps her, but then they shoot and kill them both. And when Martin comes to Valentine's bar at night, he doesn't know what's going on, so when he tries to enter the bar, Steiner's men start shooting at him. After several shots, they think Martin might be dead, so the three of them were buried together, but actually Martin didn't die, so he came out of the hole when the ground softened because of the rain, and he also brought Isabel out, because she didn't die either. He then brings Isabel to a nearby village, and with the help of the villagers heals Isabel, and then begins to prepare himself for revenge, as he wants to get revenge on Steiner at any cost. A few days later, when he feels he is ready for revenge, he goes to Valentine's bar, but before entering the bar he kills two men, and then enters the bar and has a drink, but when they see Martin they try to kill him, but Martin kills them all one by one. But he can't kill Amarillo, which means the one who took over this bar. He runs away to Steiner. He goes and tells everything to Steiner. He says, "Martin came and killed everyone, I somehow escaped," and after listening to this, Steiner thinks Martin might have come to take his money, so he tells Amarillo to hide the money, so that Martin doesn't find it. So Amarillo goes to hide the money, but then Martin comes, so Amarillo shows him the money and says, "Take the money if you want, but please don't kill me." But Martin doesn't listen to him. He first kills him and then sets the money on fire, because he doesn't need money, he needs revenge. And when Steiner hears this news he gets even more scared, so he tells his army to be ready with different weapons. But when they are ready with weapons, Martin digs a tunnel and come into their hideout, but when they see him they try to kill him, but Martin kills everyone one by one and comes to kill Steiner, but instead of shooting him, he decides to fight him with a sword, and he kills him with the sword. But here comes Boone and he also decides to fight him with the sword, but when the fight starts, Martin realizes that Boone is no ordinary person, as he repeatedly attacks Martin, so Martin tricks him into killing him. He kills him with a bullet, so he goes out to kill Rastignac, because he is the only one alive, but Rastignac has all his men ready to kill him when Martin comes. But Martin is also very clever, so he attacked them from behind, and killed them all one by one. But when he goes into a room he sees Rastignac, and they shoot each other as soon as they see each other, Martin shooting him in the hand, and Rastignac shooting him in the muscle, and since Rastignac is shot in the right arm, he quickly flees, because he knows that Martin will shoot him in the chest next. Although Martin looks for him, he is nowhere to be found, but he finds Steiner's letter, in which he wrote that Isabel is his daughter. So he takes the letter and sends it to Isabel to give her some peace. Meanwhile, although Rastignac had escaped, but no one could bear him and no one would give him room, he was wandering the streets and living in fear. But one day Rastignac was caught by Martin, but he decided to fight him instead of killing him. But when the fight started between them, Rastignac tricked him and attacked him with a knife, but Martin was ready, so he repeatedly survives his attacks. But finally Martin kills him there, and thus completes his revenge. But as he tries to leave, Harrison appears, and he asks him to go with him to England, but Martin tells him that if I see you again, I'll kill you too, and if you want to make a business deal, then first go to England and clear my name, and here the story ends.